You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
I want to excuse my puffy jacket in advance because it can be a little.
Why do you have to
squishy,
excuse a puffy jacket?
Because it's
why would I come from breakdancing where you wear bombers era. I'm of that age, and you're gonna apologize for a puffy jacket? Get the fuck out of here!
You look cool.
No, it's just fucking 4 degrees here, and I record in the garage because I'm loud and my kids they gotta sleep. And so it can just get a little swishy in the recording. So I was noticing it in ours last week. I'm like, fuck, why do I gotta move so much? Just sit still. It's like
No, I wish they would invent a jumping mic that kept everything calibrated for me if I'm jumping around when I'm recording. So, I got Providence, Rhode Island,
God help us if me and Chelsea ever get together. It's gonna be tough to figure out how to get each other not on picking up on each other's mics. But Chol, you ready?
Yes. Yeah, I'm good.
3, 2, 1, click.
All right.
It's a thing. We got it down, kind of. We like to think we do.
Is anybody going to take a stab and tell the listeners what's going to go on here, or what? I mean, anybody want to even take? I'm not gonna. Either one of you, Raquel or Chelsea, visitors from the Baroque Bitches podcast. Any guess at what's going to happen here? Somebody take a stab.
Well, I think. Do you want to go?
No, go ahead. Go right ahead.
I think this is a little bit of a fresh take on art history gossip, mainly the gossip part of it for sure, and getting into what art means for us and not being so academic and cringy.
Yeah, we're kind of probably going to be a little bit of on the dumb side of the show, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Totally. Yeah.
I want to agree, and I do agree. I don't know how forcefully to agree on the dumb, but no. So for me, on the philosophy, I do an art and philosophy show, something out of the nothing here, and for me, it's. If you put it up to academics, and you would think the same way, you're both smart, you put things up to academics, it ain't gonna sound right. This is something I'm talking to people, I'm talking to musicians, I'm talking to exotic dancers, I'm talking to Baroque bitches, I'm talking to singers, opera singers. So, and it's philosophy for the people, and I would say your art history for maybe kind of the more dirty minded, but people in general. Your art history for people, right?
Yeah.
We're certainly trying to be. I think that, in general, things have gone, the landscape of what an art history podcast looks like is changing. I mean, just even an art history lesson is changing as, everything becomes less proper and everybody has more access to this shit. It's just going, and we're hoping to kind of bring a lowbrow quality to historically really highbrow area. We did both go to art school. We do have the privilege of having a background in education, but we both kind of, I think even during that time, we're this is bullshit.
We were making fun of it the whole time.
The whole time.
Why didn't he talk about his time with the hookers more? We like that part.
The 3 of us would have been in the back of this class. The 3 of us, imagine that. Never mind a podcast. The 3 of us in the back of the class, 2 casualties, 2 people when they made it through just because of basic disciplinary control over the classroom issues. But I think it's funny, all right, so it's smart stuff, right? And it's art stuff and it's philosophy. And if you listen to the way it's told sometimes, you'd have a hard time believing any of these are human beings with the passions, desires, and fuck-ups and drug problems or whatever they did well. Everybody's a human, and there's an exalted piece where it's it is boring as fuck. So this episode is not going to be boring as fuck. That's our commitment to.
That's the goal.
But I want to stop 1 second. Before we get too far in, the both of you, I ran into the Baroque Bitches podcast and I've been listening to it since. And we just, connected via Instagram. I'm like, let's do art stuff because I just, sometimes you find something you love, you jump right in. But tell the listeners, because you're newer to this podcasting thing, tell folks who you are and what you're up to.
So, I have, Ken, do you have kids? You told me you have kids, right?
Three children. Yes.
Yeah. And so I just had my daughter 8 months ago, my second child. And I don't know how parenthood was for you when you first went there, but I think for a lot of people, especially artistic types, I mean, we're kind of part of a crew that's not doing the kids thing anymore. And, my identity for a long time was going to late night shows, doing my bohemian lifestyle. And then you have kids and that really those two things don't really fit together. And so for a long time, like, I just found it really isolating. A lot of my friends wouldn't reach out to me because they thought I was busy, which I was. And it's like, how do we sort of reconnect? And what's my, my purpose now that I don't have the gift of time because it has to be for the kids. And I've been navigating that for like 4 years. And, a girlfriend of mine has a podcast called Too Scary Didn't Watch. And it's just a horror movie recap podcast. And she started it.
Movies.
It's really, really fun podcast. You guys should check it out. And she started it right around the same time I had my son. And now it's this huge thing. And, she really just inspired me. Like, you can kind of make something out of nothing. And this is something where, like, though it does take a lot of time because it is based in research and we're sort of like in, taking in a lot to get a small amount of information that's interesting or we find interesting or weird or funky. And it's still like able to be done in these like small bits of time that lead to big amounts of progress for us. And so I got this idea, like, I think I want to do a podcast. I love gossip podcasts. I love weird facts about art history. And I had a professor in college for history who gave us a lesson on Thomas Jefferson and had us read his letters to one of his slaves he was having a sexual affair with and children with. And I was like, obviously I want to know more about this. I mean, if anybody likes Law and Order SVU, you know what I'm talking about. You like the down and dirty details.
Yeah.
And so I thought, is this done in an art space? And looking, I didn't really find anything. I mean, sure, there's, accessible art history podcasts out there, but this is just something we think's a little different. And reached out to Chelsea because she's part of my tried and true crew that I've had for a long time. And I knew she'd be reliable and dependable because she always has been. And she's like, fuck yeah, let's do this thing.
Like, obviously, we're doing this. There's no question. There's no schedule. It's fine. We'll figure it. We'll fit it in. It's fine. And I don't have kids, so I have a lot of nice free time to be doing crazy stuff and crazy research.
Chelsea, riff on it too. What's the show? What you been up to putting it together? Why Baroque bitches and
you came up with the name.
You can't. All right, tell us.
Well, I think Baroque. You can really think about the play off of Baroque could also be broke. And if you're talking about art, you're talking about being broke, probably a little bit.
Broke,
yeah. So I thought it was a little play of words of we're broke bitches, but we're also, let's pretend to be classy about it. We love the Baroque period. It's one of our first episodes was on Louis XIV and the cult of Versailles, and Louis XIV. Oh my gosh. All time.
It's a really stinky episode.
It's
lots
stinky.
of stank.
was stinky, very stinky, and very gross, and but also like hiding in this high fanciness of you have to have the right embellishment on your lapel or else you're cast out. And gossip was the biggest thing in that era when it came to the upper class and like the king's courts and all that stuff. It was all about gossip. It was all about who did what, who's sleeping with who. There's people writing to each other secretly
Yeah.
in different codes of, hey, oh my gosh, I saw the king with so and so, and what do you think about that? I think I can get my ass in over there, and
Yeah. Now we're
getting
interested. We're digging in here. Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
like so the Baroque era. I mean, and then of course all of the art. You're talking about Velázquez, Caravaggio. I mean, these guys are all problems, and they and I just feel like, and like the intensity of the artwork itself is so obvious of that it's all drama. So that's what they're interested in, is the drama. You can see like the location of the light source, the uses of tones is creating more drama for a situation that's already really dramatic. Like you
Yeah.
don't need to add more, but you got to
Yeah.
because you're in the Baroque era. That's what makes it
Everything.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought Baroque bitches, of course, adding bitches in there a little bit.
Just
We gotta
weed out the people that, just so they know up front what we're about. Like we're not
The tone.
trying.
It's kind of like the subtle
yeah.
tone of what. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
it's like, you know,
subversive.
yeah.
Yeah.
And reading about even comments on like other people's podcasts, like the Art History Babes, or you know, like there'll be always be that uppity person that's like, oh, they said bitch, and it's like, yeah, I fucking
You've
said bitch.
These
you've
are
denigrated God. You've besmirched
oh god,
besmirched the
yeah.
holy.
Like, how
Oh man,
dare
yeah.
they? I really
Oh,
like it, but they said bitch. It's like, okay,
dude,
well,
I dare you to pray for me. Like, just do
yeah.
it then. Like, I dare
That sounds
you.
like a deer. We get a deer right there from some Chelsea. Now, so great, everybody. And we'll get into this episode here that we're doing. We're already in, it's like that. But I wanted to mention something funny about, because I think about in a conversation like this, and I got to admit for myself, like. I'm an artist and I've studied art, but there's funny things about my background. One is I never really saw myself as practicing and making things in the fullest, except for the last 5 years of my life, which includes a time where I'm doing a podcast. I think what's also really interesting, kind of come from a working class background. As a little kid, I was interested in, billion things related to art, my comic books, great movies, all these type of things. So I was always
Right.
like just wild for art. But I have never, ever taken an art class, for example, art history, art class,
Awesome.
anything. And what's also interesting, that's not to say I haven't studied art, because the one formal class I ever took was in the philosophy department, and it was aesthetics in the philosophy of art, which obviously stuck in my head like as an idea for 20 something years. And then I've like, the podcast is basically just like, let's explore anything, but like, what
Right.
the fuck's art? Like, what is it supposed to do if like we dedicate our whole spirit and being to it? Like, what is it? Like for a philosopher, like I don't, sometimes I ask that
I
question.
get
I'm
it.
like, what is art? And they're like, I don't know. And then they're like an existential crisis of being like, I've fucking done this for like 50 years, and like,
It's
I don't have no idea
yeah.
why.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
totally get that. And
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
the what is art conversation is something that I think comes up in all art classrooms or all bars like
yeah,
what is
yeah,
art.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
and I always like try to simplify it the best I can. If like I teach art class, so sometimes my students will be like, what is art exactly?
yeah, yeah.
And you gotta like kind of parse it together, the root meaning of the word art is to fit together. And what the hell you're fitting together? I don't know. Anything you want. And
like that,
to me,
yeah.
art is about freedom, and artistic license is like a really big deal for me personally, because everybody has one. So that's kind of the beauty of it, is that every single person has some kind of artistic license. And fitting
you don't
something
need a
together.
fancy education to do this thing.
Oh no, you don't need that. Save your money.
You need to be human, right? Well, you need to be human, right?
Yeah.
100%,
And we have YouTube now, so we're good.
Hell
Thank
yeah.
God. Yeah.
There's a question hanging in the background, and I guess I'm going to try to wrangle this thing throughout. It is, something rather than I'll try to wrangle it. What is this? Before we all embark on this of philosophy and what is this episode? What are we doing?
This episode right now?
Yeah, like what are we gonna do? I mean, I heard you dug up some saucy stuff for one. I'm assuming that's in there.
We
Maybe
did hear from a little birdie, and I think that little birdie is named Ken, and that you're a Diego Velázquez fan, Kenny.
Yes.
I was going too personal with it. I got too close, too quick. I was trying to give you a nickname.
No.
Sorry.
I got nicknames. I work in the labor movement. I got nicknames. But I talked about you asked me like about art, and I said and I was in high school, and I was introduced to Velázquez. So it was the first time I ever studied or heard of this. And the other pieces too, I didn't tell you this because in the message, I figured I'd tell you in the show. So I went to Spain a few months after I started studying Velázquez. Now, I was 17 years old, completely out of the ordinary, but I scraped together any money that I could and like asked people for money and then paid it off later. But the huge motivation was I found out that there were no guys coming on this, that were going on this trip. And there are 12 juniors and senior females. And I'm like, if you're going to go to Spain, I mean, I was not the most socially adept kid. I was smart though, right? So I said, if there's 12 of my classmates going for a month in Spain, which I heard is a pretty cool country, if I can do this, I'm going to do it. So I went to Spain and I saw Velázquez in Spain. So that seminal,
and there it was.
17 years old, and that's Velázquez for me. But
Velázquez is a Baroque bitch.
Velázquez is a Baroque bitch. And you know what's like, we have art education and we have art background and we like art, and I think a lot of people like art, and even a lot of visual artists, like, you don't take the time to dig into who these people are, but you want to kind of know, like, it's fun to learn about them. So we came up with a little offering of some sort for you.
I've been around for a few years with the podcast. I appreciate it. It's a very democratic and accessible form, but I appreciate the offering.
Well, so we call this 2 T's and a lie. And it's just played like 2 truths and a lie. So I'm going to go over 3 T's and see if you can guess which one's the lie. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I can be.
All right. So T1, Diego Velázquez's work is so controversial and has fallen victim to being attacked with a meat cleaver. T number 2, Diego Velázquez painted a portrait of a pope that incited such a strong reaction, the pope actually hit him with his staff. Or T number 3, one of Diego Velázquez's most famous paintings features a woman who would go on to marry her uncle. So if you need me to repeat it, just let me know.
No, I'm not saying I'm correct. I excluded one. One is so.
One is so.
Yeah, one is so.
One is T.
I have that as T. So I'm between 2 and 3, and this is not like the one you would call in. I can
You can't call a
Lifeline.
landline.
No
No.
Lifeline.
It's
You see
okay
my
to be
hands are up.
wrong.
I don't have my phone. Now you've got into the deepest psychological issue that I have. Right, a few minutes into the show, the deepest psychological issue. I might be wrong. No, I'm gonna say the only answer I can give, and it's the strongest answer I can give, is I believe 2 is the lie.
Ding a ding a ding, you're right.
Yay!
You got it.
I thought it was too extreme. I thought it was too extreme. I thought it was too extreme.
Yeah.
So you would
Pope
think
Innocent.
so, right? Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
Pope Innocent actually liked Velázquez's portrait of him. He liked it a lot. And Pope Innocent did not like sitting for portraits, but he did really like his portrait. Michelangelo was the artist that Pope Julius II struck with his staff after he refused to show him his sketches.
We call him Beady Sticky Pope. Beady Sticky Pope.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, Pope Julius was not the nicest guy. And he had to deal with Michelangelo, who was also kind of crazy too.
I mean, yeah.
Hey, I want to tell you.
I love Michelangelo, for the record. Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to just interrupt. I want to give. I was just a little shout out for on New Year's Eve. I was out at the Met for the first time in my life in New York City, and my partner Jenny were accompanied by Canary Ely, opera singer, soprano, and we went into the Met. We were talking about things, but I was talking about the Velázquez and the Cleaver, and I believe it's the Venus. Venus painting in the National Gallery in London.
Yeah, it's in London, and it's actually been attacked twice. So the first time a gal attacks it with a meat cleaver as part of his demonstration for women's suffrage.
Yes.
Having to deal with like the idealization of a female image in the painting. It's actually the only nude that survived that he did. But yeah, like people just love all the rich royal people just loved him.
And Velázquez actually did a lot of nudes that was very controversial. It was not cool to be having ladies in your studio naked.
Are his nudes hot, or are his nudes hot, or they're kind of?
We don't know. A lot of them haven't survived.
There's no.
The Venus is the only one, and poor girl is out there in the elements. I mean, so she was just she got cleaved more recently. There were climate change activists who took little hammers
her posterior keeps getting attacked.
I mean,
prominent, and everybody's like,
poor Venus.
She's just trying to be here. She's just trying to live.
She's trying to live. She's got her little butt out. Yeah, like,
there must be some proper behavior in a museum, even for us. I mean, there must be some.
I mean, you know, there is a rule, like, don't attack the art, please. Like, if you can help it.
Unless
typically don't touch it unless you're supposed to, but you know.
Respect it. Yes.
Yeah, you gotta just like respect it a little bit, but you know, the white walls and all that, like we're not the ones keeping quiet at a museum. I think we even actually have been asked to quiet down in a museum or two.
I could see that. Haven't listened to the show. I haven't listened to the show.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm glad that you enjoyed it. We tried our best to dig up some tea. It was fun. There wasn't a whole lot about him, but there definitely
that was my guess. But if I knew there was somebody to like dig it out, that's why I asked you. And I think a lot about the Velázquez in classical painting, but anytime I think of Velázquez, and I love that this happens for me, my mind immediately thinks of Francis Bacon because
I love that portrait.
Matter. So I love how my head goes, like, because for me, as much as I adore Velasquez, it was really kind of the one I'm introed in. And there's, it's not my period where I like understand it all, get like super jazzed compared to like some other type of movements. But seeing that, it immediately flips for me too with the Bacon stuff. So I see them at the same time and it messes with my head.
Yeah, that Bacon painting is like startling. It's really haunting. I mean, once you see it, it's just something that can't leave your mind. And you were asking like what is art, and I think like things like that just can be like so haunting and individualized to different artists. Like those type of things really come out of the deepest avenues of your mind, and that one is really, really impactful. But we're also kind of the mind that like art doesn't always need to be so impactful. It can be so many different parts of self-expression. And I was thinking about this because you had asked like what is art, and me and my son and my husband, we're all like neurodivergent, and part of that, what that looks like for us, which really just means we just have like an atypical way of interpreting the world. And what that means for my son is that he had like a challenge learning verbal communication. And so we're like, dude, let's just get this kid like as many ways to communicate as possible. Like, of course, crayons, paint, paper, everything like that, tambourines, mini pianos, easels, collecting grass and leaves, and shouting in the middle of a grocery store, making cash registers out of cardboard boxes, dancing in the middle of the kitchen, clapping, anything you can think of. And I think like just all these different avenues to get our thoughts and feelings out, that's really what art is. Like it can be literally anything, and like the inner trappings of our minds, and just finding ways to manifest them any way we can. And but it doesn't have to be that deep. Like I was saying, like in art school, I made paintings of Four Locos, and I made a lithograph of Four Locos.
I have that one. It's in my bathroom. I have that one. I think you don't know that I have that one.
This is an episode here. I got your art in my bathroom.
That's the best part. You get to sit with it for a little bit. That's
a huge compliment. Yeah. That's the word you use and sit in a lot.
Four Locos.
I love it.
Well, I think art gets a weird reputation because a lot of people think artistic talent comes from like the planets aligning perfectly on a full moon, or you got to take some psychedelics to be truly connected to your soul to create the best art. And all that sounds fun, but talent comes from like, honestly, the work part of artwork. So if you're dealing with representational stuff, and we're all born with creativity, we all got cool ideas about something. And talent's just an acquired skill, just like you could be a super talented barista, but you started out spilling everywhere and like bumping into that guy that keeps bumping into you and forgetting orders and feeling horrible.
Learning anything takes practice. And even getting into like thinking and talking about art, all of it takes practice. And we're still not the most rehearsed when it comes to the podcast. And I think our new art now is kind of figuring out storytelling and how to really curate a good story. Which is really an art in itself, and challenging, like in a way I didn't think it would be. You've always had a really strong art practice though. She's just obsessed. Like you can't get her to stop making stuff.
I do like, I mean, I'm pretty good at painting. Don't ask me what 8 times 6 is, but other than that, I'm pretty good at painting.
I still don't know.
I'm not gonna know.
Seriously, Chelsea, pause. No. I've seen your paintings, and beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh,
So
thank you.
No. So like, like when I like stuff that I see and hear stuff that I like, I'm just gonna like say it out. But no, tell us about your stuff and what you were
Well,
gonna say.
I do love painting. I love painters. I love teaching painting.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it is one of the only skills that I'm like truly confident in. I'm like, I got
That's
this. This is
awesome.
what I
Yeah,
got. And again, that 8 times 6 thing is true. I don't remember. But
yeah. Who
I
checks for
actually,
48?
that? Who checks
48?
for
Are
that
we in the
nowadays?
ballpark? I don't know.
48
48?
something, I think.
Something?
But I might actually like drawing more. I'm really good at both of those. But I've definitely done that ever since I was a kid. Like I didn't vibe with sports at all. School wasn't my thing unless it involved like crafts or history. And I think writing is cool too. But I was raised on TV, man. I need visuals. I gotta have pictures. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
Yeah,
writers. Like you
yeah.
we're
gotta
90s
illustrate that
kids.
stuff for me. And I think
Absolutely.
I like vividly remember too, like when I was 5 or something dumb, I was watching Ren and Stimpy on Nickelodeon. And I asked my dad, like, are these characters real? Are these guys real out in the world? And he's like, no, 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 somebody drew them. And I'm like,
That's a
stop.
job?
What? I could
What?
do that. I do that now. And my
Yeah.
family, take me to art museums. I was really inspired, blah, blah, blah. And of course, being a painter is kind of like a lifestyle choice. And it does come with
Yeah.
a price. Yeah, you gotta, unless you've got like great connections and you're really skilled at communications and money-minded people, be a painter. You'll sell. You can live off the selling your paintings 100%. And the Gen Zs actually are amazing. I got
They're
faith in
so
those
good.
guys. They know how to brand themselves.
They're
I'm
That's what
great at
noticing
I
that.
it.
need.
I'm
I got
noticing that
some.
too.
I've got some teenagers in my class, and whenever I have like a question on technology of like, okay, how do I get this picture off this phone and onto this tablet and this size and this aspect ratio, they're like, got you, done. I'm like, can I just, wow, all right, like, awesome. You guys are gonna do the thing. You guys are gonna do something. I need to learn how to.
I'm into that too. As like any type of where you see an emerging like glitch art emerge for me and the way my brain works. I'm like, yeah, I'll get that. Whoever's going down that trail, I'll follow that trail. Because it just
Yeah.
it makes sense to me visually. All right, so how's the one more about the podcast. One more about the podcast.
Sure.
How's the podcast going? What are people saying about your zany stories of penises and syphilis
Oh,
and
so much syphilis.
malfeasance
Guys.
and crime and
So much
stealing
penis talk,
and
penis, vagina.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what are
Lots
people saying about this?
I mean, we're not in the know of like how this is supposed to go. Like we're really creating something out of nothing here. But we think it's going really well. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback and messages on Instagram that are just like, keep going, like please don't stop.
Clearly,
Like
other
thank you.
other people's mind are also in the gutter, I think too. And
Yeah, they get
those are the
it.
ones.
more.
Those
We
are
need
one of
more.
us. Yeah,
More.
one of us. One of us.
Well, those OnlyFans account can get pretty expensive. So I mean, this tea. If you haven't listened to the show, folks, you got some good stuff. I mean, you'll end up being disturbed after a couple of them about what humans are capable of.
We might ruin your favorite artist. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
but
Oh,
like
very
you know
much.
what?
Very
These people
possible.
need to be put on blast. Like we can't apologize for the things that these people did. Like that, it's not our fault.
Yeah,
But
and
no, the
it might.
yeah.
It might help you understand the artwork more than if you see them as
Yeah.
like a relatable human being with a lot of problems and issues in their family clearly and affairs and all this stuff that maybe you might be going through too. Like who knows? We're all human going through some weird stuff sometimes. And you might be like, "Oh, this is the guy that did the thing. I get it now. I can see
I
that.
have a number
Instead
one
of
takeaway. I do have a number one takeaway. And this is not a PSA, but syphilis is very treatable. Very treatable. I mean, I heard that point, and I'm like, I was inclined that way. I was inclined that way to anything like that. I'm just go to the doctor and treat.
yes,
But
yeah.
even later as it develops, you can still do something.
You can do something about it. Yeah,
In
yeah.
final
Fix that.
stages of
See your
syphilis.
doctor. See your
Get to a
doctor.
doctor.
And it's out there. It's out there.
If you
still,
have
guys.
sex with people, go get checked. That's all we gotta say. I mean, there's and so many people have fallen casualty to syphilis in art history.
yeah.
It was just rampant.
I got a philosopher's.
Rampant.
I have a philosopher's syphilis story.
Let's hear it. We're
let's
game.
hear the tea.
It's a famous one, and it is verifiable. Friedrich Nietzsche,
Okay.
the famous German philosopher.
Yeah.
This scene is so beautiful, artistic, and mad. But the simple story is that Nietzsche was famous for writing "Thus Spoke Zarathustra," which was essentially a Bible of the modern world. God is dead. That statement
nihilism.
coming out of it.
Yeah.
It's important for us to create values in the absence of God. And the "Thus Spoke Zarathustra" is actually modeled on the Gospels, both in number and in exposition. A lot of people don't know that. So it's modeled on the New Testament and all that. Nietzsche, towards the end of his life, had been going to brothels and had contracted syphilis. And he was a wild, explosive mind. But then, you see this development where strange things occur. Is it part of the thinking? And Nietzsche, in this great scene, is on the streets, and he goes up to a horse and hugs the horse's neck and says, I feel you. I love you. I am you. Like, he has some beautiful connection.
Okay.
Runs into his apartment, starts playing the piano and screaming, "I am Zarathustra."
Wow.
So,
Good one.
And but Nietzsche was and again, this going back even into the 19th century, syphilis, if you address it, is treatable, and it can be and not reach the all you talked about, all the organs that are affected and everything. I am taking the vows, everybody, if you are having any issue.
And that brings up the little Al Capone tidbit that I think that was in the Manet episode with with him suffering from syphilis. And I brought up Al Capone because he is like the dumbest gangster out there. I don't know how he got all of this recognition, but he was so stupid, and it really was. He was just really dumb guy, and he got syphilis because he's going to brothel, as you do, and totally treatable at that time. They had penicillin, and all of his homies were like, "Listen, just your dick is leaking. Go see a guy." He's like,
"No,
go see a guy about a thing. No,
I'm good. It's fine." I'm like, and you keep sleeping with hookers. Can we not? Maybe. And like, nope. And then towards the end of his life, there was like a famous, notable moment where he was trying to fish for fish in his swimming pool, and like really serious about it. Like he had his gear and everything, and was fishing in the pool. And all of his gangster buddies are like, "What do we do? Okay,
strap him down and make him take the thing." Like, that's what I say. Like, come on, hindsight's 2020, but jeez.
No, you're right, and it's and so not to perseverate on that particular component, but I just wanted to tell you, as far as I'm not sure if it was your number one takeaway, but I think you've improved the public health. Wonderful.
We'll take it.
this is like mostly about your show and chatting about your show. What's coming up? I've seen the Georgia O'Keeffe and the Egon Schiele. Oh my god, Egon.
Oh my
Egon
God. Egon,
Schiele.
Aegon.
That's right.
Egon.
So, but Georgia O'Keeffe. Tell what else you gonna look into? And there, there's gotta be a lot of tea. There's gotta be.
Yeah, so we don't want to give away too much. We did go over half of her life, and I think the first half of her life I can really empathize with her and like relate to her and what she goes through. And the second half of of her life, I really just lose all sort of sympathy for her situation.
The New Mexico era.
The New Mexico era.
Moving to the Southwest.
Yeah, so we're calling the part 2 Karen Goes West. And, I know a lot of people love Georgia O'Keeffe, and there's a lot of narrative of her just being like this very positive impact on New Mexico and the Southwest. But we're going to maybe open some eyes about the reality of what that how people actually feel, how the locals feel. We have a good longtime friend of ours who's going to come on the pod and help us with that. And yeah, I think it'll be a new way to look at the work. I've never been a fan of Georgia O'Keeffe, and so after doing all the research, because I was leading this lesson and I was just thinking, I knew I didn't like this bitch. So I don't want to give too much away. But,
provocative in the sense, and I got to tell you, I am very, very interested on some of the take of what other folks feel about it in the area, and and so that I'd love to hear about that. And I don't know too much about Georgia O'Keeffe. I have a fascination with the locale of the Southwest. And when I went to New Mexico, I had never been. And a couple of years ago, I went twice. And I can tell you this, and I've talked to others about it. There was something in the wind that felt so different. I know it was a sensitivity as an artist that I had, but I'm like, I get why some people are tapping in down here. I don't have the slightest way to explain it, but I'm like, there's something in the wind here that's different, mysterious, a little bit dark too. I don't know what it was.
Totally. I mean, it's a sacred place, and I think Chelsea and I both said, like, we're not religious, but we believe in ghosts. And we totally
all day on the ghosts, all day.
Right.
Every day.
We tap into like our surroundings and feeling things, but those are sacred places that have a lot of loaded history. And the desert is a really special place. And we even learning about like people stepping out of the airport in New Mexico and seeing a big sign that says O'Keeffe Country. Like that is just so wrong. But I understand the intrigue and the mystique. So we talk about, how to like go to a place and what being respectful looks like versus, just ravaging it and taking it as your own. And we'll, dive deep into that in the episode. But there's also other spicy tea that's a little less charred to sort of give a palate cleanser at the end too. So it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a really good one.
Thank you for that. No, I get excited. Maybe it was a perverse way of thinking about things, but when I heard about the show and I was listening to the show, I'm like, okay, who's on my list and who do I leave off my list because I don't want to know? And I'm like, wow, that's a weird question, right? I'm going to be like, it's like, like sometimes you find out things about something. And of course, everybody talks the way culture works right now. I'm not getting into all that. All I'm saying is like in my own head, I can say when it comes to when you hear something about artists, and when you fucking check out, and why you don't check out, like me as an appreciator or a critic, why I don't check out in other areas. And for me, I had the instance just recently, which was like twisted my brain, was Prince's treatment of Sinead O'Connor and physically abusive towards her. And for me, having the iconography of who Prince is as a genius and morphing of gender and all these type of things where an idea is brought in. It's like, Prince is this genius.
He's the
And
guy. Yeah, he
dealing
can
with
do no wrong.
his fucking misogyny and his physical assault of Sinead O'Connor, for me, was a hero. And like all of a sudden, like I'm all mixed up about it. But I think underneath, like what you're saying is like, I think if you look at art and say, all right, this artist has put out this thing in the world, and I don't give a fuck at how it was launched, right? Like that painting, like I'm just looking at it, and then there's the reality underneath. If you're looking at something that is tainted or like comes out of like a source that is unsavory, like the artist, and like I can't look at it anymore. I can't listen to it anymore.
Yeah. That's what I kind of feel about artistic license, of like how much of a big deal it is for me, but you also have to be responsible for it too. Like you can put out anything you want, anything. But you have to be responsible for it. Like a really good example is one of my favorite artists, just because of for the shock factor, is of course Paul McCarthy and his exhibition of the giant butt plug in France, in a palace in France, and he ended up getting punched in the face for that from a Frenchman that did not appreciate that type of artwork, clearly, and it's like, well, that's the responsibility of, you could get punched in the face for it. But if you believe in it enough, then
do the thing that
you gotta risk
you
it.
need to do, right?
Yeah,
And,
you do gotta risk it.
That's a strong reaction for whatever size butt plug, particularly when it's away from you and being displayed. That's
thing was
like
pretty huge, though. I think it was like 2 stories high or something. It was
It's
like blow
bigger
up.
than the pyramid. It's ginormous.
It's huge.
You can't miss it.
I'm saying it's on the approach. It's not being. It's there, and it's not.
It looks like your Christmas tree.
It's a tree. They call it a tree.
So the question is, Kenny, can you look at Christmas trees the same after looking at them?
No, mine's still up downstairs, and I gotta take my Christmas. It's lit up. There's a nice.
Does it give you a little weird feeling?
In
Every time you see it now?
I haven't gone downstairs yet. After this episode, when I go downstairs, I'm gonna have to put that Christmas tree in the front lawn.
Oh man. Well, it'll be back in its natural habitat. But no, I do think that like what you're saying is like having the responsibility to look at these guys, because a lot of what history has done has downplayed some of these actions or justified it. And we talk about that in Egon Schiele, have like, he was a pedophile, and just because it was okay at the time, I don't think it was okay at the time. Like,
that's
and we can
why they changed the age.
That's why the laws are different now. Yeah, because they knew it wasn't all right. And just because it was happening, doesn't make it okay. And I don't think it's our responsibility anymore to justify artist acts to make ourselves feel better about liking something. Like, we can look at something like Prince, and his image is separated enough from who he was as a person that, nobody knew about that. And so we can't feel guilty about liking the music then, but knowing that we know now, I agree with you. I'm not somebody personally who cannot carry that with me in the now. Like, I can't listen to certain artists anymore. I can't look at Egon Schiele the same way, but that speaks to who I am as a person. I'm a very sensitive person. But I think these things can still exist as phenomenons that happen for an art movement and as influence to others, and we can still learn from them for like what not to do, and what not to justify and what not to allow for in a current landscape. So yeah, we gotta take the lesson. We gotta be okay with it. Maybe we don't put on Prince. Maybe 1999 every now and again, but
Well, like songs like Kiss. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the thing. But part of it for me, I think overall is kind of like a deeper understanding of what happened to me with Sinead, because when Sinead became huge, I was 18, 19 years old,
She
so I
had a
kind of
really
followed
hard
this.
time.
It was
Yeah.
it
She
was
had
it
a
was
horrific
incredible.
childhood.
It's
Yeah.
like I had never seen in my entire life, and this is, in the 90s and stuff, such a almost universal exhibition of misogyny and cultural misogyny. And I
Yeah.
realized, like, for me in thinking, as being a thinker, I've been thinking so much about this because when Sinead died, I was devastated. I've never been devastated. Like, I get into artists and I
Yeah.
love them, but I didn't like I wasn't prepared for it. And then I'm like,
Right.
what's going on? And of course, a little bit older than me, but I found it was far more intricate because I felt like through the entire time, and I'd always listened to Sinead even after she was cast out and all this stuff. Like, I've listened to her like almost the entire time. Was that um
Good.
I was in love with her, but she presented things for me as in the culture in the 90s as a male around my friends, like, I think she's hot. Oh, shaved woman,
Right.
right? Immediately, like, it'd be
Right.
launched upon you. Who's gonna say that? So it's like this secret of her voice, of the music that was so strong, but I never realized it until she was gone. And then I was like, where the heck did all this come from? And then and confronted a lot of it. So I think in that example too with Prince, it's like, if that person who holds that piece in your mind has that stature, then like somebody who's interacted badly, you're like, fuck you, that's
A
Sinead,
billion
fuck you,
Yeah. Of whose team are
Yeah.
you on? Yeah.
right,
Yeah. No,
right,
for
like,
sure.
just like,
Mhm.
all right, that's the Sinead thing. I want to know, this horror in the background. I think we mentioned a couple. Either one of you or both of you horror freaks, like horror images, horror movies. I
Oh
heard
yeah.
So that,
like
no,
metal.
not
What's
me.
going
That's
on there?
gonna be me.
Well,
That's
go
where the
in. Tell
good
me.
cop, bad cop comes in. I'm
Like,
like, I can't even.
Raquel's very
No,
sensitive.
I
Yeah, she
am.
can't she can't watch scary movies.
No, I
But that's
can't.
okay.
I'm
That's
scared.
okay. Yeah. No,
Listen,
I love horror movies. I love death metal. I love all the dark, spooky stuff. That all came around because of my dad, I think, mostly more than
oh yeah,
anything.
I did that to my
With
kids.
Halloween.
I did that
Yeah.
to my
My
kids.
Halloween.
my maiden name is Hill, so we would have Halloween, and we had this just massive Halloween party every year. And when I started decorating when I was 6 and helping him decorate, and he was he leaning into, I want this to be scary and gory and terrifying, not fun, no cutesy Halloween stuff allowed. No little candy, little things. It's got to
Everything's
be,
directed towards terror.
yeah, it's got to be disembodied things and
Yeah.
guts and horror and blood. And he actually isn't like a huge fan of horror movies, which is weird. I love horror movies. My favorite movie of all time is House of a Thousand Corpses.
No, thank
And
you.
I can totally watch that. That's like my background. It's anything where I'm like, why am I rooting for the serial killers? What's wrong with me that I'm rooting for these guys to stop?
Yeah,
I think it's
Chelsea
an absolute
and
genius movie.
Yeah, Chelsea and I share some brain space. The Something Rather Than Nothing podcast. I've been lucky enough to interview the 2 top Friday the 13th fan film creators
Wow,
on
cool.
on the show, and The Something Rather Than Nothing podcast, I don't know, there's some official roles that I have. So one is a resident philosopher, and his name's Jacob Forensic. I have Something Rather Than Nothing saint, and that is Evizia Dakini, exotic dancer extraordinaire. She is the spirit guide for the show. But recently, I selected number one Scream Queen, which is Susie Block, and so the show has an official Scream Queen as well. And so there's some cred here, some horror cred over this way.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm a huge found footage horror movie a freak. I love that genre. So Raquel's over there. It's okay. She's still doing all right over there. But Chelsea, no, we're just like, I'm looking over everybody who's listening. I'm trying to not look at Raquel just to not scare her. I'm trying to connect and sequester this to Chelsea.
I can handle knowing that horror movies exist. I am, 35. I know that they're there.
What credit you've given? I acknowledge that I know that the world has produced
they're there.
These things.
We just politely decline to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch, I saw the House of a Thousand Corpses preview and I had nightmares. I just I'm way too imaginative. And I saw when I was 5 years old, the John Benet Ramsey headline on a People magazine, and that just ruined me for a very long time.
Always had a creepiness to it,
I just can't. I'm right there. I'm in the room. I have so many feelings, and let me tell you, it just is physically exhausting to watch.
How do we establish Raquel as the healthiest? How do we establish Raquel as the steadiest of us three? And that's been revealed now. That's just it is recorded.
Obvious.
But I really understand. I think it's a healthy way. It's like a healthy way. It's like I don't drink anymore, but I understand why you just separate yourself from the thing. I don't need any of that. It's not good for me. And it's a healthy, normal human reaction. And so just trying to give you the cred, too, to keeping us anchored. Chelsea and I could become unanchored. I've had ghosts on the show. I've had people give ghost tours.
Nice.
Everything's scary. Cool. Everything abandoned is... Oh, boy.
I'm not afraid of ghosts. I'm into the ghost thing. I like
in
ghosts.
Reality, if I really saw a ghost show up right now, I would shit myself.
I'd probably poop in the pants.
I'd be as scared as anybody. I would be as scared as anybody.
Totally. I think it is something to say about art and making art making you feel something, and what it is and trying to make you feel. I don't know. And there's something. I think I was introduced to scary movies way too early, and a lot of those are still kind of crawling in the back of my subconscious a little bit. Some of those key scenes of nope, I was too young to see that. But I think there is a comfort level for some reason when it comes to scary movies and slasher films, and I'm not the one being chopped up right now, so that kind of makes me feel better in a horribly toxic way.
They're so aesthetically pleasing and nostalgic, a lot of them. I love the beginnings of horror movies, and Stranger Things, I was really okay, this is great, and now I gotta shut it off. I can't happen. But I do like the aesthetic. But I think you and I both share in that shoal of loving shock art and kind of shock value.
Of how crazy can you really get? Can you? And I mean that's just talking about American horror movies, not the Japanese or Korean ones where you got wow, these guys are twisted, and I just people are so creative.
It's incredible. And but one of the things is, you want to hear something funny, and I think there's some deep psychology in this, because it's not like movies haven't impact me. It's always fun to talk to ones that kind of like put a jag in your head a little bit and kind of like tweaked you. And certainly a bunch of horror ones. But the movie that scared me the most, and like I refuse to watch it again, is the original Willy Wonka.
Oh, really?
That shit scared the living daylight out of me. And that was that. And people giggle around me right now, but I've always maintained how serious I am about, like, I do not need to watch whatever that is. And they're like, whoa,
Is
Ken.
it raining?
Like, whoa, okay.
Is it snowing?
It's happening again. I haven't experienced this in 40 years. And here I am.
Oh my God. I'm a huge Gene Wilder fan, and I love
Gene Wilder.
I love Gene Wilder.
I could say that that's a horror movie. That could totally. When he falls into the chocolate, and it's like,
oh my God,
what is he dead?
It really is. No,
that's it.
What happened to him?
What happened to the kids?
And for people that are imaginative and can go there, you're wondering the whole time what the fuck happened to that kid. Is the little kid going to be stuck little forever? Is she always going to be a blueberry?
Is she gonna be a blueberry forever?
I needed answers there that I didn't get.
If we had, I might have been able to deal with it if we had a few answers or like the outcomes. No, that was just
they just left
come
us
out
hanging.
the other side. Yeah, and then they just continue the tour. They continue the tour.
Well, and Gene Wilder's too good. So he mentioned Gene Wilder. Gene Wilder is like phenomenal. You mentioned that. But do you know one of his finest roles in Everything You Want to Know About Sex But We're Afraid to Ask? Do you know what his most famous roles is?
I mean, Everything I Wanted to Know. Is that a movie title?
So it's a movie title. And it was, speaking of Woody Allen film, right? Speaking of which.
Right.
And so these were, we're going into uncomfortable territory. We knew we would going into the show. But there are these vignettes, which were from a popular novel, which was called Everything You Want to Know About Sex We're Afraid to Ask. So in one of these scenes, Woody Allen is a sperm amongst other sperms, and they're all in the chamber, and they're like, I don't want to go. And he's like, if he's jerking off, I'm gonna end up on the wall, like individual sperm.
I like that. That's
funny. The one other part of I guess I'm probably going to talk too much about two more parts. One part was a game show called Name Your Perversion. And the piece that Gene Wilder played was Gene Wilder helped to care for a sheep, his neighbor's sheep, and fell in love with Dolly, his neighbor's sheep. And this was the regular released cinema fare, 1973 or so. But Gene Wilder played and I think Dolly the sheep was played by Dolly the sheep, and Gene Wilder played the love afflicted neighbor.
I gotta see it. He's such a good one. Maybe we could even do a pod on him. Gene Wilder. Because he has just this like way of being able to capture these characters and invent them that like you would never even think of. Like how he even thought to do some of these roles just is beyond me. And he was like a really kind of like, I don't want to, like, he didn't have like a drug thing. He wasn't like a sex thing or anything like that. He was he was actually addicted to praying.
Wow.
So he like, and he wasn't
raised
tea
or reverse tea.
Well, and he wasn't raised religious or anything. He just sort of started habitually praying and got so wrapped up into it one day that he like blacked out in an empty lot in New York and woke up and was like, I need to get help. Like, this isn't normal. Like, I need a professional. And I always just thought that was so interesting how somebody who's not religious can get addicted to wanting salvation and escape from whatever they're going through. I just was like, damn, this guy has some dark corners.
My mind is blown by everything I'm hearing. I just
Isn't
Yeah,
that
like,
I didn't know.
wow.
That's
funky?
weird. Okay.
I
Wow.
know. Because normally you're
Wow.
like, okay, syphilis, alcohol, heroin addict,
Got
whatever,
it.
that's
Got
your
it.
more run of the mill sort of
Yeah.
problem. The praying usually doesn't become an issue. So he was a
Yeah.
real individual for sure, and definitely had the
I
shock
loved
value.
his interplay because I was at the age of Richard Pryor. His
hmm
interplay with Richard Pryor, and he's one of the greatest stand-up comedians ever. And those two together were,
Yeah,
whoa,
a
what
bang
a
up show for
combo!
sure.
What a
Yeah.
combo! So how many episodes of the podcast have you done?
What is it now? I don't
I
know.
think the next one will
getting
be
there.
12, and I only know that because
12.
I'm the one that posts them.
Yeah.
You know
And
you're
we're
at
gonna
the
have 'em-
threshold, then, not to interrupt, you know you're at the threshold, it's 12 to 13, everybody dies off right where you are. So if you push past, this is the
Oh.
miracle mile. If you push past this, you're in other lands.
Oh, we're pushing past.
we're
It's
pushing way
We
past it. Yeah,
got
no,
ideas.
we've got ideas. We made resolutions. We don't really do New Year's
I was
resolutions,
waiting
but
for
we
yours.
made
There's a
them
birthday one
together.
for one of you. There's a birthday one coming, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, my
Raquel's
birthday's next
birthday.
week. Yeah, I'm a weirdo Aquarius. Hey, Jan babies, love you guys. But yeah, so we're gonna push way past it. We already said, we'll give this as long as it feels sustainable, and right now it feels really sustainable. We have a good system because we both get to trade off learning and researching. So I don't see us stopping for at
Oh
least
no.
another 100.
100 years.
100. Unless
That was
unless
my
you know
request. That was my request. I mean, you're
unless
feeding
people,
somebody's brain out there.
unless people are like, we just don't need this, and then I think we'll reconsider. But
When did that
for
ever
now,
stop an artist? The people saying no, they
That's
don't need it. That
true.
doesn't stop it. Yeah, it might eventually stop you.
That's
No,
true.
people are digging on it. They just don't even know that the stuff was there. I mean, the stuff you told me, that Gene Wilder story is about as twisted thing as I've heard in years. The praying thing. I'm like, I couldn't imagine something like that at all, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, it's
yeah, it's one that
tantalizing.
when I read about it, he has a book called Kiss Me Like a Stranger, and he goes really into depth with it, and it's just the weirdest. It's like so different from anything I could have ever really wrapped my brain around it. It still really struck me. I mean, Chelsea and I were both raised Catholic, and so I think
So was
we
I.
can kind of listen, you get it then, because
Oh,
that
yeah.
fear of God is struck in you, at least for me. And when I was really young, I remember being really scared, and then all of a sudden I was like, wait, I don't need to do this. This isn't for me, this is not real. I'm not buying anymore. And I think Chelsea, like you from a really young age, alternatively kind of knew oh wait, no, I don't think so.
Oh no,
Right?
yeah. I do remember being really young and just being like, this isn't real. This is all fake, right?
Not for
This is
me.
fake.
Not
This
for
is
me.
all
No more
fake.
buying in.
It's
Even though I still believe in ghosts.
Hey, I got
Yeah.
some cred though, as a so I grew up. Everybody in Rhode Island, I forget what it is, how many folks are statistically are Catholic. It's
It's a lot.
everybody. Yeah, the
It's a
immigration
lot.
patterns, and so I grew up
Yeah.
Catholic. I didn't. Newsflash, I didn't fit in too well with the whole thing, but deeply ingrained upon me. But one cool thing, I never went to a private school in my life, but I got a scholarship to study philosophy at Marquette University with the Jesuits, and there's a whole problematic history and everything tied to that. But I tell you one thing that I really liked about learning from the Jesuits was that within philosophy that I studied, within the program itself, there were opportunities to do real service work, like with people in the community. And within the Marquette archives, they had a woman called Dorothy Day, who was the Catholic communist. She was a Catholic communist and had all that stuff in there. So there was this in the streets, help the people piece of Catholicism that I'd never seen before, that I really appreciated, and I learned a lot in that, of actually like, so like I tried to peel that from.
I mean, yeah, and giving to people is never a bad thing, but I do think like it just feels like there's always kind of this ulterior motive of like, let me give you the pamphlet at the end, though.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
Because
you're
you're
not
Join
getting
the
everything for
congregation. No
free.
contraception. We need more parishioners.
Yeah, like let's not. I mean,
We need more numbers. I'm a labor
We need
union
more-
guy. I'm the
come
same
on.
way. I need more numbers. We need more student enrollment, whatever's going on.
But
Oh,
I
totally.
get the giving part, but the whole you'll burn in hell thing, not for me. But
I mean,
we're
this is
all
something
for
I
whatever you
can.
want to do, like whatever you want to do. And I live in the Midwest now, and we're from California. And it's just a different vibe out here. Like I've never
yeah.
been. I think everybody kind of operates on this assumption that we're practicing Christians, and like, oh, have you found your church yet? And oh, if you want to join my prayer group, and
Oh.
for me, I feel like that's really brazen, like to assume nowadays. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like the only religion where I think people just have that assumption, and then if you're not into it, it's kind of like, oh, like something
Like,
terrible.
oh, okay.
Oh, you can't possibly be a good person then. And it's like, no, but I am. I just
Or
don't
you're
like.
screwed. Like this
Yeah,
this huge
For
feeling of them saying you're
Oh.
screwed without saying the word. You're screwed.
I'm just such a
Yeah.
foreign concept. Yeah, and I'm screwed. But that's okay. I don't mind being screwed. It's gotten me this far.
I have a good theft story from Marquette University that people would probably like, since
Okay.
we're talking about the Catholic Church. So, in the midst of the Marquette University campus, which is towards downtown Milwaukee, urban campus in the city, there is the St. Joan of Arc Chapel. And the St. Joan of Arc Chapel is a 15th century chapel. And you say, hey, Ken, I'm an artist, but how did a St. Joan of Arc chapel get in Milwaukee, Wisconsin when it's from the 15th century? Well,
Yeah, why?
it was
That's too
basically
old.
there was some loose cultural export regulation in France, and this was like one of the last like kind of like cultural objects. They had bought it and shipped it brick by brick,
Oh
large brick,
God.
15th century bricks, to reconstruct in Milwaukee. And after that,
Wow.
the French government passed legislation to be like, yo, you can't be taking 15th century Joan of Arc like churches and putting them in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, USA.
For what?
For
Yeah.
why?
For why?
I kind of like how ridiculous that is, though. I mean, I like anything that's sort of ridiculous and like unnecessary to a certain degree.
What's the one where like a sculptor sculpted a statue of Lucifer, and then they were like, not too hot, and then like they hired his brother or something like that. He's also a sculptor, and made another statue of Lucifer, which was even more hot than the first one.
Oh my goodness.
And they're like, no, this one's way too hot now. Like, you guys, no.
Too much.
How many did they
I
go
love it.
through? How many did
I think they stopped at the 2, and they were like, "Listen, I think Lucifer's just a hot guy. I don't think we can deny that.
We can't make him look like Socrates. He's gonna look like how he looks.
He's gorgeous." That's part of his allure. That's actually in the Bible. And I can go on about the hypocrisy in the Bible. Oh, it's one of my favorite subjects of all time. Some of my favorite, and I bring up a couple of Bible stories, or my favorites are, my favorite of all time is Lot. Lot is my favorite Bible story, and then the second favorite is Job. Lot
Job
is
quite a while.
I'm just like, well, he just ruined this guy's life because the devil was trying to mess with okay, God doesn't seem so good. But Lot's my favorite, I think, because of the major incest, because this is what daughters do. So, and I talk about it a little bit, and I don't even know what episode it is, but it's where Lot and his wife and his family are running from
I think it's
Sodom and
Goya.
Gomorrah. And maybe it's the Goya one. Oh yeah, it's the Goya one, because he was painting the Lot and the background of the Spanish family, which was tea. And where Lot and his family are running from Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, and then God is like, don't look back. Of course, the wife looks back and she turns into the pillar of salt, that thing. But then after the pillar of salt thing, Lot and his daughters go into the cave and are trying to like figure out, okay, what are we going to do? And the daughters are so adamant about, oh no, how we're never going to find husbands, because that's our whole journey, is to like have husbands and kids. Yeah. So then they get
the next generation.
their dad drunk and proceed to
I just like
assault
feel like
him.
I feel like I'm gonna throw up just thinking about it.
That's in the Bible. Like
It's
that.
Bible,
I didn't learn
though.
about that.
Bible stuff, you know.
I didn't learn about that in Sunday school. I was making macaroni pictures. Well, I didn't learn about Lot in Sunday school.
And have you seen Brad Neely's comics in YouTube? He does a really good one on that story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's like a history professor giving that story, and it just makes me feel like I'm gonna throw up a little bit.
Oh, it's horrific. And a lot of Bible stories are really in the same theme of that, oh wow, okay, that is insanely
and then this stuff ends up in art history. But then this stuff ends up in art history, and it's like, I mean, it is tea, and it's fun to talk about.
Well, we're covering some amazing territory here. I mean, that's what the three of us can do. I mean, we're in these. Speaking of horror, right? We're in Bible stories right now, and I did want to tell you one more thing about the St. Joan of Arc Chapel, right? And this is the piece, because now we're getting Catholic. We're moving into Catholic miracles. Back from Lot.
Let's do it.
No, let's go back. From Lot to Catholic miracles. So there's a tiny little chapel, and it's gorgeous, right? And it could be snowing in the midst of campus. And heck, I grew up Catholic. I'd look at this thing and I'm like, that looks like a beautiful little church.
The churches are beautiful. Yeah, gorgeous.
There is one brick, however, that was touched or was in contact with
Joan
of Arc. And that brick is colder than all the other bricks, and I touched it.
Is it really?
It's colder. I touched it. Now, I'm not saying nothing about anything or whatever. All I'm saying is that I touched that brick, and it was colder. It was colder. It was all cold,
it's 15th century, right? It's Middle Ages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they were all about the relics back then. They probably found a stone. They're like, this one's colder. This will do it.
This one's colder.
Geologically,
that's what I was thinking. The actual properties of some stones might hold the cold more. Final piece about Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This St. Joan of Arc chapel was a mere 12 blocks from the house of Jeffrey Dahmer. And that is when you get into Milwaukee, for me, it was dominated by the St. Joan of Arc Chapel, Miller High Life, and where Jeffrey Dahmer's used to live.
Lots of famous things there.
I just needed that triangle. That triangle, the Catholic Church, Dahmer, and beer. And then,
I mean, it sounds like you're going to need the beer to go with the history of the thing. I get it. No, I
need the beer.
This is not sponsored by the Milwaukee Tourism Bureau.
People don't want to go see that. I want to see that. I love a piece of American vintage. The past symbol.
We're from California too, so every time I have family that lives in Connecticut, so every time I go back there, it's like everything is so old and the bricks.
Yeah,
so cool.
Everything is so old.
And
this is so cool.
And the churches.
Because I mean, in California, there's some Spanish,
We
like
got like the missions, I guess, which
yeah,
are
the
problematic
missions.
anyway.
Yeah, which are also problematic.
Like,
Yeah.
do I want to visit those? I do, but I
Yeah.
also am a little freaked out by them. Those carry some angry spirits for sure.
Oh yeah. But everything's relatively new, yeah, for the most part. So when we go back, we're like, oh my God, it's so quaint. And now that I live here, I'm like, oh, so old. I love it. I love all the like history and vintage and everything. I'm super into it.
You guys
I
got
think
good
those.
antiques out there.
I think New England ghosts when I head out there. My first girlfriend, serious girlfriend in college, lived down the street from the Warren investigators in Monroe, Connecticut, the ones with the Annabelle doll and the Cursed Objects Museum. She
Oh
grew up
yeah.
down the. I should have known. She grew up down the street from the Cursed Objects
Oh
Museum.
no.
I should have said to myself
Mhm.
that if these cursed
Sure.
objects were present and she lived a block away,
She's
I don't
Cursed.
know.
Cursed.
She's
She's
obviously haunted.
It's obviously a walking ghost. Ghosty
Yeah.
ghost.
So, well, anyways, I'm not trying to be funny, although that was a little worry in my head. I mean, it's so close to the
It's too
Too
close.
close for
Annabelle doll.
comfort.
You could
No.
walk out of that glass, and Chelsea and I know that Annabelle doll.
I get it.
It could
How
like
dare
You wouldn't
sleep
like
at
the
night.
Annabelle stuff.
it'd be like
I know. I
Chucky in
hate.
my
I'm
head.
like, I have chills, and I don't even know really what it is, and I feel like no.
You should.
It's
That's
a
that's
whole-
the art.
It's
Sorry again.
A whole house full of haunted things.
The museum of
And,
cursed objects and haunted things in like from all around the world and supposedly like under lock and key. And the original haunted Annabelle doll, which is totally haunted, was a Raggedy Ann doll. The original Annabelle doll is like behind glass in this.
yeah, they have to like
house.
bless it or something like that. I
don't know
remember.
what
like they have to do something like
I'm not on that work
regularly.
detail. I'm not on
I
that work
listen-
detail.
I love the whole mysteriousness behind the Warren family and all the things that they did. Are they really paranormal investigators? Are they really psychics? I don't know.
Maybe.
I used to love that stuff, and I
wouldn't mess
listened to
with
this
Annabelle.
one.
No, I
I listened to this one
wouldn't.
podcast, and that's why we drink. And they talk about a haunted doll, and they were talking about how the doll, even her presence, would like contact listeners, and the listeners would send in stories. And let me tell you, I was so scared for like 2 weeks, thinking this fucking doll spirit thing came through my speakers. It was haunting me. It's just too much. I can't.
Highly recommended museum if you're ever out in Vegas is the Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, and it's ran by I don't know if you like all the paranormal investigative shows, but I am obsessed. I love all those guys. I don't care if they're fake. I don't care. It's the Ghost Adventures. Zach Baggins, the Ghost Adventures guy.
I love all that shit.
Yeah. He's like one of the first. The Ghost Adventures people were like one of the first, I think. They hit them, and then the Ghost Hunters are like the similar era of like very early 2000s Ghost Hunters, and he's a character. He's only a character, and he started the Haunted Museum out in Vegas, and they have a lot of weird stuff. They have a couple of haunted dolls where they have like a spirit box next to it, and sometimes people faint, sometimes people get their names called out from the doll, and like divot boxes and all these things you have to make offerings to in order for the spirits not to follow you home, and all. Dude, it's so
Chelsea,
fun.
Raquel has to sleep tonight. Come on now, she's gotta go to sleep.
You gotta go watch some cartoons.
Just because I'm looking at you as we're talking, I still understand that the sound of the audio is still affecting what Raquel's hearing about this. It's
I know.
It's a bit much.
I'm a wuss.
I want to
I'm
talk
a big
more
wuss.
Oh no!
Haunted
I'm used
places.
to it.
All right. Hey, what were we supposed to cover? We've covered a lot of stuff, but
we've got stories. I mean,
if we like if we hung up right now, you'd be say like, hey, we're supposed to drop this in. This is mostly your show. I'm saying a bunch of weird stuff over
There's
here,
a couple things.
Which one do you want to do?
We could talk about our Renaissance, which is where me and Raquel first became buddies.
Yes.
And that one's pretty funny. So so we both went to Sonoma State, which is a little state school up in Northern California. It's beautiful, has an awesome art department. It's just like, it's a cute little place. And during our time at Sonoma State, there's this coveted New York trip that all the art students at Sonoma State look forward to.
Only a few get selected.
Yeah, and everybody, like the whole time during art school, you're just like, oh, I want to go to the New York thing. I want to go to anything.
Will I be on the trip?
And this trip was going to be my first time in New York City and Raquel's first time to New York City. And of course, like, it's the greatest city in the world and culture and art and all the things. But me, being in my early 20s, I wanted nothing more than to experience that like 4 a.m. bar situation that they have and the not sleeping
you're
thing.
In the village. You ended up in the village, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Of like, I want to do the night
up a
stuff.
lot of places. We ended up a lot of places.
And so of course, like we were excited about the Met and the Guggenheim and all the art stuff, but we got to start at the beginning of our journey of the like crazy.
On our way there, we got on the plane with all the students and the teachers, and we take off from SFO and land in Salt Lake City. And then as we're taking off out of Salt Lake City, the fucking pilot comes on over the intercom and is like, I need help up here. And the nose of the plane slams back down.
We're taking off.
We're taking off.
At this point.
And so
people are screaming.
We had a fall. Everybody's screaming. False takeoff. So we all deplane. And Delta's like, I'm going to give you guys 6 drink tickets and $50 to spend in the airport. And it's we had like 6 hours to wait in Utah. 6 hours of drinking in Utah.
And that's what you do in the airport, right?
You feel extra dirty doing it in Utah as well.
They have this beer called Polygamy Porter. I'll never forget that. And so it's
the bar was very much in on it. Yeah.
And so we all just get absolutely schmammered. And then our flight into New York was crazy. Chelsea.
It was like bouncing. And I'm okay with flying. Raquel is very much not, which I learned.
You could have probably heard that.
Yeah. We were like friends of friends at this point. Like I always kind of, my thing was like, okay, this girl is real pretty and I like her work. And that's about it. I didn't know that. Like, oh my gosh. And I was like, but other than that, I don't really know. She's kind of a friend of another friend, like acquaintance kind of thing.
Yeah. And, you were kind of like mysterious. I was like, I don't know. She looks like she doesn't like me. And you're too cool.
Like just a bunch of horror movies.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe.
She's a metalhead. I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see.
And then, so coming into New York was horrific too. It's pouring monsooning rain.
Oh my God, it was the craziest flight.
It was just horrific. And then I remember all of our other friends and everything were saying, oh gosh, I can't wait to get to the hotel and just crash out.
I'm so tired.
I'm just
we need to go to sleep. We got an early morning.
We did all this work to fucking get here. We are going out.
We're in New York City.
And everyone else is just like, girl, you're nuts. No way. Like, we're tired. And then I remember looking at New York and then New York to Raquel and saying like, are we on the same page? And she's like, totally same page. We're going out.
Awesome.
And I was like, did we just become best friends? Are we on the
It was definitely, it might have been exactly like the scene in Step Brothers where they realize that they're best friends.
Oh,
like we
clicked there.
something clicked. 3 days. I think we maybe collectively slept 8 hours.
No, we
That's
did
all
not
right.
sleep.
That's all
We
right
went to
in the city,
Brooklyn on
yeah.
accident, and we got to
Sure.
see.
Sure. Easy left
We-
turn.
Yeah, we went on accident. We went ballroom dancing in the middle at 4 a.m. in the middle of the park. We went to one of the Sonoma State alumni, Chris Jaley, this artist at the time. We got to go to his house and see him make a bunch of cool drawings. It was just
Awesome.
like, it was so
Awesome.
fun. And ever since then, we've just been like stuck together, and really we've been through so many things in the trenches together.
Now, I do not recommend putting your organs through what we put our
No,
organs through.
don't do it.
during that
Kidneys
time.
There's always a health. There's always a health. I don't know if that's
There's
good,
a
but
health
there's always
PSA,
a health
yeah.
disclaimer to say don't pickle your liver in such a short amount of time.
My organs are still mad at me, but like we're
Yeah,
definitely
that
on
was
the
a tough
same
one.
page during that time. And when it comes
Yeah.
to debauchery.
Did you end up at the Chelsea
Yeah.
Hotel? I hope you stopped short of the Chelsea Hotel. I mean, in this
I don't
adventure.
remember. I don't think
We
so.
did go through that neighborhood because like all the galleries are there and stuff. So
Yeah,
we
we
did
did
kind of walk
go.
through the Chelsea neighborhood. So I was like, that's me. I did, and she spells her name right too.
I love it. I love it. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
that
then
was our
I mean,
Renaissance.
that was our Renaissance, and we did all the New York things. You know, we experienced them all together.
We
We got
did
to
the
see
stuff.
the Pollux together. We did the Met. We did the
Yeah.
Central Park. Like we got to do
The
it
Frick
all.
is the
and then-
coolest one. I like the Frick
Yeah,
the
the
best.
Frick was
That was
cool.
awesome.
You did like the Frick.
Yeah.
I like the
All the
the
Vermeers is
MoMA.
sick.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was a
yeah.
good trip. And then ever
Mhm.
since then, you just like stuck by my like we were just stuck together, and everybody kind of wasn't on our same wavelength.
Yeah,
for a
though they
while.
were all very annoyed by us and our antics
Yeah.
the whole time. And sorry,
Yeah.
guys, we were probably very
Sorry,
annoying.
we're really fucking annoying.
And what I
but
did
we
is
haven't
just I
changed.
opened the door and said, "Come on through with it." So
Yeah.
it's different people going to respond different ways. No,
Oh, yeah.
that's such a lovely, and particularly with like New York City. I was thinking when you're talking about like the Guggenheim is like on my show.
Yeah.
The first thing that I thought of the Guggenheim, I did a what if podcast is like in Marvel Comics. It's alternate history. What if this happened? And I riffed for about like 100 minutes on 2 Conan comic books that I read, and the ones that I read was
Nice.
like Conan like smashing the shit out of the Guggenheim. So that's what I had in my head as we were telling me part of the story of your time in
That
New
was
York
us.
City.
We were Conan
I
out
love-
there smashing the shit out of New York City, man.
Yeah, we were like Godzilla.
We loved
Ours-
it.
Yeah,
loved
we did it. We did
Yeah.
New York for sure.
Oh yeah, we did the thing we were
Yeah.
supposed to do, which is just party your ass off, I guess.
And alive and fit in the art museums and checked all the different things.
We did all
that you
the
had to
art
check.
things too. We were responsible. Sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah,
Even went to
kind of.
visit an alumni to network, right? You networked out there as
Mhm.
Yeah,
well,
it was
right?
networking.
Yeah.
But then I remember we got back to the hotel room and we told everybody, like all of our girlfriends, like, hey, we just saw Chris Jaley. Like, we got to go to his house. We saw his drawing. He gave me this drawing. I have it in my wallet. And they were all like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, they were so mad that they missed out on that. But
Yeah, you went
know
for
what?
it though.
You wanted to sleep.
Yeah, you can't win if you don't play. You
Yeah.
know?
Right? Nobody likes a quitter, right? Nobody likes a quitter.
Yeah, nobody likes a quitter. You got to
Right?
be out there.
We didn't even shower that whole time, to be real. We're
It
very
was
Baroque.
Very
Very-
stinky.
Very stinky the whole time. Maybe
crust.
that's
A lot
why
of
they
heavy,
hated us.
lot of heavy clothes, a lot of layers, a lot
It
of
was not
Layers
good.
Red.
with the
Not a good
walking.
smell.
Yeah, not
I think it took
cute.
me a full day to brush my hair out from how mad it was.
I think Leonard Cohen did a song about that. No, I get it. Hey, now is there anything else outside of the meeting? Anything else that if you left this show and said, "Oh shit, we didn't cover that," what would that be?
I mean, I don't know.
There is a very specific art critique that involved Raquel's questionable bronze sculpture that she made in Sonoma State.
Yeah. I can
Good
go
times.
there. I didn't know if we were gonna be.
Let's do
It was
All right.
brought up.
Fuck
It was
it.
brought
We're
up.
doing it.
This is
a
You only
entertainment.
something rather than nothing once, right?
That-
So
If it goes
so
like this,
to-
maybe more than that, but keep going. Yeah.
maybe. So at Sonoma State, they have a really like comprehensive art program, which means that you, even though I was a painting major and I still had to take all the other things like sculpture, ceramics, and the sculpture teacher, I think you can just describe her, if we're talking about a sort of high art setting,
the
like she
lady.
just definitely holds herself in a high regard. And now, being older, I get it. She was the only female studio art teacher at that male dominated school, like total badass. But at the same time, like I very quickly knew that she was going to be uncomfortable, let's just say, dealing with me, because I definitely like to like disrupt. I don't like white walls. I like, to shock, like we said.
Just let her be subversive.
Just let me be subversive. And if I get a hint that you're not going to like it, I'm going to double down. Like I just have to. I have to challenge you. I have to challenge you.
I like this instinct. It's good.
Well, it's just like, art should be able to be anything, right? You really should be able to push those limits. And so the assignment was to abstract a body part. Can you guess which one I did?
I haven't the slightest idea. Was it an elbow?
Close. So it rhymes with weenus. I did a penis. I was like, I'm gonna make a penis. And I knew going into the conversation, because you have to talk about what you're making and why you're making it. So I knew going into this conversation that I'd have to like straight face it and have a really good reason why I'm abstracting the penis. So I'm talking to Jan and I'm like, I'm going to abstract a penis and it's going to be like what my dick would be like if I had one. And it's going to be about, female rights and empowerment and which are serious topics. Like it was, it was easy, but to be honest, I was really just kind of fucking with her and everybody. And I knew having to be in like a critique that I was just like so excited. So I and it's Bronze Foundry was the segment too, which is, very
it's
high
like
art.
Working with
refined.
lava.
It's like it is like working with lava.
I was actually the hooker of the Bronze Foundry, and I just
you were the hooker
job because it was hooker. And it's really like you use a hook and you like hook onto this. It was like actually one of the scariest things because they're like this big pot of lava is like in your face. I'm like, man, I just chose this job because the name was funny. Like, come on.
You had like a full fucking anti-fire suit.
Oh,
I could suit. Oh my god!
I'm just thinking both of you, like either one of you, around lava in general.
It was a scary situation.
Scary.
No, but it was scary. But making bronze, you have to like sculpt wax and then you dip it in plaster and then you fucking fill it, and it's a whole thing. And she was talking about patinas and finishings and things like that, and I'm not very precise, but I patinaed the dick and I did it and I did it right and I waxed it and I made it as like it was, and then when I presented it, I put it on a white pedestal on top of a glass wine carafe. And I nestled it into this wine carafe, and then I lit it and I put it in the center of the art hallway, so everybody had to walk and see it. So we go into crit and I'm like, okay, I just have to stay strong. Like I cannot laugh. Because if I laugh, it ruins the whole thing. So I kept a straight face and everybody started giggling and like not, they're like, well, it's a dick. Like, what can we really say? And then I look over and my friend Janie at the time, she is like looking at me like sensing that I'm sort of like disappointed because people aren't getting into it. And she stops everybody and is like, I think it's like, I can't believe all of you are laughing. Like, this is clearly, and she was really serious. She saved my ass. This is clearly a commentary. Like, I'm just thinking about the weight that men have on top of women and how they keep us down and how also the strength of the carafe holds the man up because women really are the backbone behind men. And she goes there.
Keep
And I was like,
keep going.
Yeah. She just kept going. And I was like, fuck yeah, this is going my direction. And I mean, it's so cool because it actually, even though I did mean for it to be sort of like this comment on my artistic license, it ended up being this other thing. And, other male professors came up to me and they're commending me on it. And, I really liked it. And John Scott, remember, was all
John Scott,
approached me at the bar
he loved it.
later. And he was like, what is that? Yeah, he loved it. He wanted to talk to me about it for so long. And it really ended up just being like one of my favorite crits that I've ever had.
The art department won't forget that one.
I hope not. Sometimes they ask to keep the work though, and unfortunately they didn't ask to keep my 7-pound bronze penis. But I still have it. If you guys are in the market.
Well, there's a lot of directions this can go, and we both do classy shows. I mean, let's face it. So we have a
right.
Highbrow. But let me try it this way. Since you said initially, you're just fucking around with things, but you said it would be yours. Did you craft your penis in a way that reflected crafting yours in your head?
I mean, yes.
By patinaing the hell out. I think that was the verb. Patina the hell out of it.
So I think everybody kind of has a doodle. Like, do you have something that you like to doodle over and over, Kenny?
Yeah.
Is there anything?
I do geometric shapes constantly all around, and that's what I do when I doodle. Yep.
See, and I have a signature doodle that I do. It's usually figurative, heavy eyelids, big bulbous eyes, and like weird, like kind of creepy little figures. And so I drew those like 3-dimensionally all over the penis. And there's this term, I think it's spit back, that can happen in bronze where like if the wax doesn't melt the correct way, air can get trapped in the casting. So it looks like somebody took a bite out of the head of the dick. And I was like, I just have to let this happen.
There's a bite taken out of it.
Yeah.
That's the reason for the commentary. That was the reason for the commentary, if that's what
it was accidental. It's not something you can really control or plan on. Or maybe you can if you're a master at the craft.
You're good at this,
She gave me a B+, which I thought was good because all my other projects did not grade as well. But I remember being like, B+. Like, thank God.
That was an intense class.
That was an intense class. It was very serious.
So we have an SRTN podcast exclusive then, I think, at this point, right?
That is for sure. Sure. Confirmed.
Dare I ask, is there any other thing that if you hung up and said, shit, we were supposed to drop this on that podcast. This has been a free for all. We know we're doing it now. Not to force anything on you, but to get rid of that feeling that I have sometimes. I mean, I have 1,000 questions. I'll be unsatisfied at the end. I mean, this is just There's just too
No,
much
it's
I could open.
okay.
I'm just gonna let all that go.
I think, if anything, just, come check it out if you want to, and if you feel like it,
Yeah.
you
And we're just
know.
trying to like combat the hoity-toity gatekeepy art environment with full
Yeah.
force in a fun, gossipy way, and bring us back to the art is just a human experience, and humans are drama, and drama is fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out, definitely
Yeah.
download Baroque, bitches, and maybe some of these artists will be more could be more relatable and help you join the conversation. Or if anything, as Raquel says, you can be the most interesting guy at the party with some
Yeah.
of these little facts about,
Oh, I'm
about
already
some of our
using it.
favorite artists.
I'm already
Yeah.
using some of this stuff, like
Did
you
you
take it, you'd be like you get
Did you
somebody
have a
brings the,
moment where you were like, "Did you know this?" or anything like that to anybody? Did you use the T?
well, Egon,
It's okay. Don't make yourself
Egon,
Egon.
Egon,
Chile.
Chile. No, and on the Chile thing was fun is I mentioned in brief passing, maybe on social media and Instagram, but what I found so fascinating about my encounter is I was in the mid-20s. I was in the Czech Republic, and I'd never even heard of the name Chile. I just had an encounter. But when I saw the art, I was like, oh my gosh, like what the heck is this? I mean, just
Right.
just kind of
Freaky.
hungry
Weird,
to
yeah.
see everything. And the museum, I guess he had worked some time in the town of Český Krumlov, which in the Czech
Right.
Republic, and but I didn't realize this strange event, which I'd never seen before, would correlate so closely to the art that he produced. Was that there were Europeans, and I don't say that because they were naked. I mean, but it was starting to get warm, but it wasn't very warm. So when there was a bunch of women, a few guys, and they all jumped into the river, and it was over down by the museums. But I think what was so fascinating that I didn't understand at the time was like what I saw were bodies, and they were all like, when you jump in and your bodies become like distended and you're not posing or
Right.
modeling. It was like the way that the bodies were in his paintings, there's an exposure. And I was like, it's so weird. The only time I've ever seen people, well, I see that every weekend in Portland, but the only type of time I've seen that was like really like then and right next to that museum. The other piece, when I was in the town, once in a lifetime experience, only time I did it, but it was fun as hell for a few minutes, was there was a bar in Český Krumlov that was an old jail, and it was underground. So then it was like going into like an old ass like jail bar.
Ooh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Only time I ever had absinthe, right? So I'm drinking at this point. And they set it up, and they got the absinthe, and it's green, and I read all the legends, go nuts on this stuff, and it's wood alcohol. And then they get the sugar, and they soak it up in the absinthe, and then they light it. And I'm like, am I fucking freebasing over here? And like,
it does look like a situation.
Like I don't always check my surroundings or check myself, but I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm like, is this freebase? Had it, and I drank it down, and I giggled for 45 straight seconds. 45, whatever interact. And funny, I try to laugh. So I giggled like a schoolgirl for 45 seconds. And I was like, whatever that was, whoa, that is different than other things that I've had before. So that was all in one day. Yes.
That does kind of remind me. I used to work at a marijuana dispensary. That's how I met my husband. He was my manager. And we used to do, and this was before the prop came out. So it was kind of like in the transition era of marijuana being just medicinal, and then marijuana being recreational in California at the time.
Sure.
And so we were allowed, basically before the prop came out, it was just, you're basically just selling drugs in a store that at that point of it's completely not regulated at all. The federal government doesn't want to deal with it. It's fine.
Yeah.
And So we're doing the dispensary that I worked at was doing dabs in the dispensary. So a lot of people thought like,
So
oh,
crazy.
what is this? Is this crack? And it's like, no, it's weed. It's fine. Try it. Come on, try it. Be one
Just
of
need more
us.
heat. Just need more heat than normal. That's all it's
Yeah,
going
and
to.
so I was the one to kind of dispense the dabs because you have to like heat it up with a torch, and we didn't want our patients to be like playing with a torch or anything. So I'm heating it up, and it's always the biggest dudes, the biggest, scariest gangster looking dudes are like, yeah, give me a dab, it's all good. And then okay, come on over, come on, it's okay, come on. And then they're just I'm like a solid like 20 seconds, 30 seconds of straight coughing. Like, is that too hard for you? Is that okay? Here's a glass of water. And then of course the giggling, the full blown like coming into themselves as like little babies. Yeah, I need a glass of water. It like happens. I'm like, do you need to go sit down? It's okay. And the ones that took him like a champ are usually like the hardcore old ladies that have aches and pains that needed to come to the dispensary. And like, please give me a dab. Hell yeah. I took it like champs.
I would be like
that story kind of
in a
reminded me
ball
of
in
that
the
time.
corner, just dying.
That
Can we
sometimes
just
would
comment?
happen.
Can we just
How'd you end
comment
up
on
around
how
so many
good
torches?
Chelsea's baby voice is, though?
That is actually thank you for pointing that out. I moved right into that. Chelsea, how do you end up around so much lava and hot torches? I mean, I'm a common citizen here, an observer, and saying, how's this happening here?
I don't know, maybe I'm a fire sign. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just
Chelsea's also
attracted
very
to fire.
neat and organized and clean. I feel like I'm the opposite, and I've always been like, wow, you're so clean.
Or
like,
weren't you
you're so
Aquarius,
organized.
right? You're Aquarius?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wily.
Yeah.
Up, down, all around. It can't be
Yeah,
tamed.
my partner Jenny's in Aquarius. That's a real energy. I'm a Leo, so I don't know how those are supposed to combine and all. So I like Leo. I like the August birthday. I like the
Yeah,
I
my
like all that
dad
stuff.
and my stepmom are Leos. I have a lot of Leos and
Whoa.
Sagittarius
That's a
in my
lot.
life.
Both my parents are Leos,
Really?
and that's
You
why
serious?
they're divorced. Let's just say they're divorced.
Leos are really loyal, though. They've got a loyalty to the people that they love. They're caretakers. They got a temper, though. And Aquarius, we can't be
I'm gonna
bothered with
hide.
the temper.
I'm
We can't
feeling
be bothered
something
with the
here.
temper. You gotta
Moving
tame
off
it. You gotta reel
camera
it in.
away from Mike. Yes, Leos. Two Leos can be a much. Hey, let's. I'm going to talk to the listeners out there. Baroque Bitches podcast. Follow, jump on the Instagram page. The Instagram page is fun. I've seen memes. You've been memeing it up, yeah. I love me a meme.
Podcast.
I love me a meme. And review.
review.
I did a review recently. I said not for prudes. I said other things, but this is don't come in ready to be offended, folks. Be prepared to learn and understand all of the story behind your famous artist. But no, we were doing this indie thing, and there's something about podcasts too. It's like there's a lot of misnomers and misunderstandings. Like I said about that thing going from 12 to 13 episodes, people say there are a billion podcasts. No, there isn't. There are a large amount, and it's a growing media, but of ongoing podcasts of good quality and like indie folks putting it together. This is like important stuff to support. And I think it's like really cool to do it because you already know it's not easy. And like, how do I get noticed? And if you make art, for me, I'm a self-promoter. I'm an organizer. If I'm making something with my brain and I think it's cool, just like me working in the labor movement, if I think it's cool or a good thing to do, I'm going to tell you it's a good thing to do. I'm going to tell you to listen. And I think like dropping into that and supporting and just artists will drop in and be like, check this out. I'm a big fan. I've done my review. I've done a lot of all that type of stuff. But seriously, everybody take the action step. Support broke bitches. Hey, support something
Thank
rather
you.
than nothing.
Rather than nothing.
Something rather
Yeah.
than nothing. Hey, I've never done this before, but prior to letting you go, everybody hates this question. Why is there something rather than nothing? It's the
We
funniest thing
got
in the world.
it, dude. We got it.
Like, is it? I mean, did we capture the gestalt of why there's something rather than nothing? I mean, we covered the Bible, a lot of the Catholic Church, miracles, Jeffrey
We went a
Dahmer,
lot of places.
brass penis. There's so much syphilis. It's go to the doctor.
It's all in there. We went so many places.
When I lived in Cape Cod and go to the doctor, my friend, it's on the Cape Cod, early 20s and stuff like that.
You
Your
told him
buddy
to get
yells,
checked for syphilis.
I'm pissing razor blades. Dude, I can't help you with that. You gotta go to the clinic. You're pissing razor blades. I'm not asking questions.
Go see a guy about a thing.
For that to go away.
You can't put 12 ounces on it and wait for this. You gotta go to the free clinic. There's gotta be one down the street. People can find your show everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Well, why is there something rather than nothing? Oh, I want you both to do it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm very literal. Surprisingly, I'm pretty literal, and I did get kind of mad at the question a little bit when I was thinking about it, and then today I was like, you know what? There's only nothing to quantify something, because nothing is not actually a thing. I don't think nothing is actually real is my answer after thinking long and hard about it, because everything is able to be described. Even space, where there's supposedly nothingness, is still fucking called space. So that is why there's always something, because nothing is not actually existing. That's my answer.
Did she freeze up?
Yeah, just froze up just right there. And she was...
Oh man, I was like enthralled. I didn't know this stuff.
Like she's like,
did I lose you guys?
You giving the best. You're giving the best answer. Like I can't predict. You're giving the best answer. I'm like, I don't have to fucking ask this anymore. You're going, and I'm like, and then you stop. I'm like, I've been doing this 5 years. I'm finished.
It glitched. It paused.
We lost you at like space.
You can describe space as being something. You're talking language.
You can even describe space, because space is still space. Space is not nothing. So the answer is that there's not actually nothing, because everything is actually something. Everything is something rather than nothing.
Raquel, right there.
Done.
You did
fucking nail on the head. Yeah.
Not too many people. I don't say that. I mean, it's right there. It's like for me. I always tell the joke again. Don't tell the joke again. Don't say it again. I always repeat myself. You got it, Chelsea. Something rather than nothing. If the question is still, if the question is still of any issue or importance, I'll just answered it. Give it a shot.
I think it's just that nothing would mean that the art world would, and I'm less literal. Like I'm more about like how it pertains to us and what we're doing.
You got this.
But that I think, because the art world would continue to be this gatekeepy environment that doesn't allow people to access it in a way. I think a lot of times, and I hear this from my students a lot too, of I don't really understand some art. And it's like, well, sometimes it's not something to understand. You just got to kind of feel it. And so we're really trying to, like, if we could, trying to make something be that art could be accessible for everyone. And then maybe people would want to consider joining the conversation, or even people would consider making their own art. And that is just fucking beautiful. So I think that's the something, is that that others, kind of spreading the word that others can access this. And it doesn't have to be with painting or drawing or anything like that. It could be, and it could be quilting or making tree houses, I don't know, gardening, like whatever your thing, whatever your something is, should be explored, and you should also have fun with it too, as much as you can.
Yeah. And I mean, something can come from nothing, right? Like we are building this something out of nothing, but then the word nothing's only there to quantify the something that we're doing.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like really intricate German expressions that try to capture what you did, and careers spent on trying to capture what you did. But I love it. No, it's art. It's art for the people, right? Like I didn't fit into the academy, and I think like if philosophy or thinking about like questions wasn't at least entertaining or helped you like mess with your head to try to figure out a different way, or art than it jack with your head to say, hey, that wasn't true, this is true, then I don't know, like let's go for it. This is what is this episode called? The truth something Baroque. I don't know, we'll figure out the title later on. The book of Job, or I don't know. That got scary with Chelsea on the Bible stuff. I'm like, if I throw that out there a little bit further, we're gonna get all the Bible stuff. We're gonna get Abraham and Isaac. We're gonna
go
get
there with you.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
I love all that stuff. I also kind of hate it too, but I love it too.
Yeah.
You're good at it, and you know your shit. Like I was like checked out at catechism for sure. We almost catechism. Yeah. Yep. I had to do the whole thing. I got we won't.
They confirmed me.
I got confirmed too. I'm a confirmed Catholic.
What is the state
You're not gonna burn?
What's the state of the church, Raquel? If looking like us, I even answered the questionnaire wrong before with the priest. I answered the questionnaire wrong. There was something in there said about loving your neighbors. I was basically wrote something like, "My neighbor's an asshole. I don't love him. He's a jackass." And it still confirmed me. I'm like, "Oh,
my neighbor. What do you mean?
I can pass tests here. I think I failed this one, but if you're gonna pass me anyways, I guess you need me confirmed. So I don't know."
I didn't end up getting that far, but I did read the thing. I think that a lot of people should try reading the thing, and especially the people that like to quote it a lot should try reading the thing, and saying that there's some really really wild stuff in there. So if you're going to quote it, especially when it comes to being mean to someone and hating on somebody, then you should actually read what's in there and see that quote is not relevant.
Because we're not like anti-faith or anti-believers.
Oh, faith is beautiful.
We're anti-haters, and it's not our fault that Bible belty people just get grouped in there because they like to be haters. Quit being a hater.
And from what I know about Jesus, he was actually really cool and a Buddhist. But anyway,
we are taking on every topic, and that's our commitment in this show. 1 second, my screen's back. Hey, you still there?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Something weird happened on my screen. So we're running into weird goblins and everything. Let's wrap up this party. Thank you both so much. I felt like I knew you because of maybe the wildness of your show, but really loved hanging with you and exploring.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this was
fun. And everybody check out the Baroque Bitches podcast. Subscribe to it on multiple channels. Download it on anywhere you have space, on your computer, on your tablet, on your phone. Get those downloads up for them. And keep doing what you're doing. Like I said, there's something between episode 12 and 13. It's not all easy from there, but you have gotten over the hurdle. So you're doing it.
Thanks. Thanks for that. I didn't know that. And yeah, we appreciate being on here. It was really fun.
Super fun.
Yeah.
We got to do it
Too much
again.
fun.
Part 2.
Guess
Do it
what?
again,
Art is
part
fun.
2.
Guess
This is
what?
part
Art is
1.
fun.
This is the rest
Hey,
of the
everybody.
story.
Yeah, this is part 1. Hey, everybody. Art is fun, right? It's good.
Remember? Have a good time.
Have a good time. Have a good time. And thank you so much. And yeah, more to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is Something Rather Than Nothing.
And listeners, to stay connected with us and our guests, visit somethingratherthannothing.com. Join our mailing list for exclusive updates and access to guest-created art. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast platform. People really read that shit. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our community across the planet. This is a global show, and we like to give a shout out to our many listeners across the world, including many listeners in Canada, Spain, Germany, UK, Argentina, Brazil, India, Thailand, and so many more places. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast for behind the scenes content. And the best way to help the show is to tell your friends about us. If you love it, they'll love it too. Tell your friends who love it. We love you. This is Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast.